Good morning. I'm Rob Skiff. I'm the founder and CEO of Oplerno, and this is Woodblock 2014, day 3. And we've got a couple of workshops planned for this morning and this afternoon. You can check out the schedule on oplerno.wikispaces.com and look for Woodblock 2014 on the right-hand side, and click on that, and then at the bottom of the page you'll see a schedule. So I'm doing this presentation from the offices of one of the offices of Oplerno, located in Burlington, Vermont, but we've got team members who are located all over the world. Daniel Crompton is running things over in the Netherlands, and we've also Dan Kirk is joining us off-site. Faculty members are all over this building and other places tuning in. If you have questions or comments that you want to share with us, you can do it in a couple different ways. One is emailing us at questions@oplerno.com. You can also tweet those to us at hashtag Woodblock, or send them directly to oplerno.com, and yeah. So let's get to it. Today's morning session, which is going to go about a half hour to 45 minutes, we're going to be talking about, whoops, let me start sharing the screen. Okay. So we're going to be using the Wiki, and so let me just show you where the schedule of events is. So you've got Woodblock 2014. You can go to the schedule of events, and we are here where we're going to talk about Oplerno and General Studies, Openness modules, and choice. And what we're also going to be doing in the course of this presentation is I'm going to be sharing with you all some of the governance features that Oplerno uses with the Wiki as we build out what our general studies proposal for a general studies program that we're creating. So let me just get to the way in which we share, the way in which we work, and our governance procedures before proceeding with that conversation. So one of the big points that one of the big benefits of Oplerno is the open governance policy that we have. We really like a lot of transparency, a lot of input by faculty members, and we're really trying to empower two groups of people, faculty and students, and the ability of the faculty to teach, to develop programs, and the ability of the students to learn. And to do that, one of the things that's really important in terms of governance is that rather than an administration deciding everything that goes on, what we need to do is make policy creation and proposals a whole lot more open. And this is especially the case when you're talking about creating general studies programs. As we've said in the last few days, the Oplerno right now, we're developing a lot of courses. We have over 100 courses under development, and we're starting the process. This week, if you've been participating, you'll see that there are several different certificate and degree programs that are starting to be worked on and proposed as we move to applying for degree granting authority to the state of Vermont and the national and regional accrediting groups in the U.S. As we're going through that process, administrations, we could try to, build out and say, hey, create this particular class, but that's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to create a new type of governance model, and one that, again, gives maximum freedom and responsibility and benefit to faculty. So what we have here is on our wiki are all our policies, all the student contracts, the faculty contract, and you can go on and you can comment on those. You can enter a comment in the discussion if you would like to recommend a change in a contract, or a change in the student contract, or a change in the faculty contract. We've also got information on our wiki about accreditation and approval and different kinds of mileposts that we have. But the biggest thing, of course, is a rough guideline to this degree and certificate development guidelines. And then here below, we have, some of these, the rough outlines of a business program and the rough outline of the food service management certificate. So if you're interested in teaching or interested in developing something, you can do that through the wiki. Now, one of the best ways to learn how to do something is to show a particular issue in practice. So what I'm going to do is walk you through, as we create the proposal for general studies, and we talk about modules and how I conceive of something. We're going to do that on the wiki and show how to create a page and how to start generating discussions. And the goal here is to come up with a structure and to come up with feedback loops, feedback that allows Oplerno, myself, and our team to then implement what we think it's your recommendations about what a general studies program is going to look like. And we're also going to start taking, I'm going to propose a few issues to deal with transfer credits. And we're going to be following up with that tomorrow in terms of talking about another type of conceptual framework in terms of dealing with requirements for a bachelor's, and again, the requirements for the general studies. So without further ado, we'll create the page. So it's really simple. We've got the schedule of events for Woodblock 21, and on the wiki I've logged on. So on the upper right hand corner you can see I'm logged on because it's got my icon and it's got my name. Go to wikispaces.com and you can look at anything on this wiki, okay, on the Oplerno wiki, but you can also edit things. So to create a new page, what I'm going to do is, again, cut and paste, really simple, highlight and cut and paste the module, and then move up here to Pages and Files. Okay. We go to Pages and Files and we create a new page. We hit New Page and we're going to title the page. Now you can rename the page a little bit later on, but we're going to call this General Studies BA. Whoops, can't do that. And BA. Because I want to make sure that we're talking about the general studies framework within the context of an associate's degree and a bachelor's degree. Remember that one of the other great things that we're going to be able to do at Oplerno is offer certificates of study, which are courses that are 3 or more classes bundled together, and then the creation of a certificate. Students don't have to take general studies courses to get a certificate. They can concentrate more on a particular area that they want to study and gain some skills, and of course that is all linked with our portfolio. But in the case of an associate's or bachelor's degree, in the US and in lots of different countries, getting an associate's or bachelor means that you're also getting a sense of learning about general education and what sort of skills an individual needs to survive and thrive in the 21st century, but also drawing upon having a good understanding of the culture that you're from and potentially other cultures in the world. So we're only going to be talking here about general studies with the AA and the BA. And so you hit create, and we've got a web page. Okay, and then to simply give us a context in which to work at, I'm going to cut and paste the document and get rid of that little those little dots. So in the agenda it says, since there's not one global culture, there can't be one general studies program. However, there are some areas of knowledge and skills that all people need to have. How do we create a basic foundation of skills that allows for as much cultural diversity as possible? Rob is going to make his first attempt at outlining the basics, but this is very much up for discussion. Okay, so in the way we've conceptualized the framework of for the degree is that roughly half the credits in a 120 credit program are going to be in the discipline, focused in on the discipline in the major and the degree program that you are learning in. But the other half are going to be courses that deal with, again, general education, general knowledge that everybody should have. And for me in the proposal that we want to, the things that we think everyone should know. Now that there's a lot of ink has been spilled on these debates about what it is that people need to have an understanding of. And so we're going to start with the broadest categories possible. Okay, and those categories are everyone really needs to understand and know about math. Okay, have a good understanding of mathematics and how to apply mathematical understanding and reasoning to real-world problems. The other piece is that we have to know how to write and read. Now, writing and reading in the communication of the written word is extremely important. Notice how I'm not saying write and read English, because what we've got is the Oplerno the Oplerno system in Canvas supports multiple languages and multiple language platforms. So it's really important that you're competent in reading and writing in a language, but we're not going to say that it's going to be English. Okay. Math, reading and writing. Science. Okay. It is, again, today very, very critical to have knowledge and understanding of science, and it's pretty that's pretty self-explanatory. The social sciences, okay. Basically what we're talking about is history, sociology, anthropology, things that deal with complex systems. Things that deal with complexity in terms of whether it's the natural world and human beings, or whether it's understanding history and culture. That's going to be kind of all under the social sciences, and you have to have those. You have to have a good basic understanding of the disciplines and the knowledge in those areas. Finally, another language outside your native. Okay, so today, while I was born an English speaker, I have knowledge of, I don't speak it fluently, but of Spanish. Today in a globalized world, you need to have both. Now it's up to not just Spanish, but learn another language outside your native one. So because the world is so small, globalization is so big. It's such a big factor. You're encountering people with all sorts of backgrounds and cultures. And it's a really good idea that you know how to speak another language other than your own, both to communicate with someone outside your the groups you're familiar with, but also because learning another language is learning another way to think. Each language has its different sort of unique structures that it uses to understand the world, and so by studying a foreign language, you're going to get a great, it's a great training to be able to look outside yourself. Notice, though, what I haven't put in, what is up for debate is we didn't put in the humanities. Not that the humanities aren't really, really important, but what is the cultural group of the humanities? Okay, so in other words, having an understanding of the literature, having an understanding of literature, having an understanding of art, all kinds, is very much culturally dependent. So while I think humanities are extremely important, the specific humanities that we're talking about, the specific cultural context of the humanities, this is going to be an area that I hope generates a lot of debate. Okay, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that tomorrow. We're not at Oplerno. We're going to strive for maximum flexibility and diversity for the options that people are having, options that people have to move through our system. Okay. I'm getting some tweets in. Oh, okay. I'm getting some tweets in, but they seem to be unrelated. So I guess Daniel, can you just tweet me through Padillo in terms of any questions that people may have? Okay. So back to what we were talking about. We need maximum flexibility and diversity of options for people to move through the general studies. However, I think we'd be doing the students a disservice if we didn't have some type of general distribution in terms of everybody having to take some mathematics class. Maybe we also decide on a level of knowledge that they have to have in mathematics, but that's something that the faculty and the community can talk about. The sciences, same thing. And again, the goal of maximum flexibility and diversity for the options of moving through the system. And then something that is going to generate a lot of debate also is transfer credits. Okay. Does a course from another institution, can that be transferred into an Oplerno degree? And the answer to that one is yes. Okay, we're going to accept credits from any institution that has some type of state, national, or regional accreditation, and that might be US and others. Okay. Now, while we'll accept the credit for transfer into our general studies program and to be part of the BA or the AA, a really important thing to remember is that those we can't document the skills that are being transferred from that class. So, and the skills are a big part of our skills portfolio and the value added of Oplerno. So while you can transfer credits in to potentially get a degree, you're not going to be able to use those classes to document particular skills that you have that really are, again, pretty spectacular to be able to show that students have, that you've learned how to think critically, manage a particular process in a restaurant, or have written a play and figured out the budget in terms of dealing with startup, or how to run an IT division. All those things can be captured in the portfolio, but we're not going to be transferring information. Sorry, we're not going to be transferring skills from one class in another at another institution into us. Let's also talk. I want to propose this and have some reaction and talk about Coursera. and edX. Okay. Now, one of the great things about a wiki is that you not only can save and use text, but you can also integrate video and audio. So let's take a look at Coursera. Okay. So as you know, Coursera are these large MOOCs. Okay. And let's just click to some of the courses. And while taking a class that's a MOOC and being part of 100,000 or 20,000 people who are taking the class, and then having most of your evaluations being done by multiple choice exams. While we don't believe at Oplerno that that's the best way to learn, we want to keep our classes small, under 20, high, a lot of faculty student involvement. If someone takes a class in a particular subject and it's 12 weeks long, or it's that Carnegie program, meaning that it's 3 credits, basically 36 Carnegie units, meaning 3 times 12, 12 weeks long, 3 Carnegie units per week, so 36 Carnegie units, okay, of contact hours. Wouldn't we want to allow a student, if they passed the exam and they earned a certificate and it was verified, why wouldn't we want a student to potentially transfer that certificate that they've earned from Coursera or edX into getting an Oplerno degree? There's a couple different reasons to allow that. We can take a look at, oh wow, this is great, some competition for me in terms of learning to teach online. I'm offering a class in using technology to subvert hierarchy in the classroom, and I can take a look at the course syllabus. Okay, it's 8 weeks of study, 3 to 6 hours of work a week, so this might actually not meet our standards in terms of the Carnegie contact hour, unless we were to really take a look at the courses and the course syllabus, and maybe I'll contact the professors to check that out. We can take a look at the course syllabus. We can, a student and also us when we're evaluating the transfer credit, can take a look at the what background you need to take the class, and we can take a look at the suggested readings, the format, and some outlines and awards, some feedback, and see whether the class would work. You have to ask yourself, okay, here a student could take this class for free. Maybe they're going to, remember with MOOCs, the participation rate drops off over time. Again, if they were to learn the basics, the question that we should ask as a community is, why wouldn't we take this class as a transfer credit? It's being taught by professors at the University of New South Wales. We can look and analyze what these people are up to. We can look at the lectures. We can look at the assessment regime, see whether it fits in, whether it's a legitimate course. And even though Coursera doesn't offer, none of the Coursera partners are going to offer to accept that credit at their university. So the University of New South Wales isn't going to accept the course that they're offering on Coursera for credit in University of North South Wales. I think that's a little weird, but that's just me. We might want to do that, because isn't the point to help students navigate through the system, earn a degree, but also, this might be a very good general knowledge class. But if you really want to know how to take things to another level in terms of technology in the classroom, you might want to be part of my certificate program on online learning and education. So we have to be open as an institution, in my opinion, to looking at these free services and these MOOCs and integrating them into what we're doing at Oplerno. We've got to remember, Oplerno means Open Learning Organization. And while the portfolio system is something that we're going to own and you can't transfer, we can't document whether students know how to do the particular list of things that they say they're teaching with their MOOC. That's not going to be possible in a class of 100,000. And we also want the auditing function of being able to trace back to the faculty member who signed off on that student's ability. If it's a transfer credit to earn a certificate or a degree, why wouldn't we allow them to save some money and to get them involved in education with us? Okay, so nice thing about the wiki is we can edit the wiki, and notice when I hit edit, it's important that people take a look at the Coursera stuff. And I highlighted, whoops, let me explain how I did that. I highlighted, I hit link, and I go down and I click on web address, and I just paste it in. And I've created a link to Coursera, and I will Coursera. So I spelled that correctly. And I can do the same thing with another great company, edX.org. We can take a look at the courses. We're not, what's interesting is we're showing all of edX's classes, and it looks like they have 225 of these edX classes available. People could go through and they can look, and again, they can find out if there's a particular time. You can see the times that these courses are starting. Why wouldn't we take a look at potentially transferring some of these basic classes for a degree program or a certificate program that Oplerno offers? So I'm going to also link to edX. I hope, again, I hope this generates a lot of debate, because we need to make sure that education is affordable to the students, that they're going to be getting their degrees. But, to be perfectly blunt, if we were to have a lot of interest, I think that our faculty members are going to be able to very quickly show how much better it is to learn in small groups with a professor, and that while the edX courses are free, charging $500 or $1,000 for really, a specialized class or a really good class where you've got much more interaction and you're learning things from the faculty, well, that's a really, really important option, and really we're spending the money on if you have it. But a lot of people right now are hurting with student loan debt, with the cost of education, and maybe they want to kind of they can learn the basics, the general education things, from a lot of these free and online sources that are very, very good, and then they can transfer them in and take more specialized courses with, Oplerno. But again, we're going to accept. This is my proposal. We're going to accept credits from any institution that has state, national, or regional accreditation, and accept them as potentially counting towards a certificate or towards a degree. The question marks are going to be the Coursera and the edX. But I think we should seriously consider saying, hey, if they've passed the exam, if they've gotten the certificate, they passed the exam from Coursera, okay, then why wouldn't we accept it? And I look forward to hearing what you all have to say about that. Let me just toss, though, a comment. We need to keep in mind the cost issue, and also the cost issue, and also skills documentation. No transfer credit carried will be used for the Oplerno portfolio. Okay. Then I'm just going to save that, because you always want to save your work frequently. One of the nice things about the Wiki, and also about taking a look at which general education or general studies pieces that we want to take a look at, is that we can look at examples, okay, of good programs in general studies and distribution. I'm going to pick kind of, I like to think of big picture first and then drill down in terms of finding how to implement a particular policy. So the justification for, hey, why math, reading and writing, science, and the social sciences, I think this one, Common School. So the Vermont Common School was a school that that myself, my wife, and my dad started, and one of the things that we were really concerned about is math, science, language arts within the context of the environment. Okay, and that while these guiding mission, while the mission and guiding principles has changed slightly since we were there, the most important thing is their discussion still of distributions, and also realizing that, hey, to thrive in the age in which complexity and opportunity are created at an ever-accelerating pace, students must become skilled in a balanced mix of the language arts, mathematics, physical, natural, and social sciences, as well as artistic, musical, and athletic expression. Okay, I'd word it slightly differently, but hey, that's a good example of what a general education should include. We're talking language arts, which corresponds to our reading and writing. Professor there, Cara Simone Bader, was really, she really stressed, and we all did in all our classes, learning how to write. Mathematics is a language used to describe the world. You have to be able to use that if you're going to be educated, and no matter where, what culture or area you're from, you've got to understand that. These three, again, at Vermont Commons, we were teaching everything within the context of the environment. That's, there very well may be a general studies program, okay, that you can sign up for and go on a track that's going to be much more focused on teaching, general education within the context of the environment. That's great. But everything should be including, again, understanding of the physical, natural, and social sciences. And then we have the humanities. Look, artistic, musical pieces for the humanities, and athletic expression. When I was there, we talked about, lifelong activity and lifelong fitness. Okay? So even though we're talking about this was a, secondary school, which means, it was the high school piece, just before college, a lot of these skills, a lot of these areas that we're talking about are things that can be integrated to an AA and to an associate's or a bachelor's degree in general studies. And this does, though, provide the justification. Why do we do general studies? We don't do general studies because we've got particular departments that need students and we need to fill those classes up. Okay? The reason why we want general studies is because if you live in a world, in an age where there's complexity and things are rapidly changing, you have to understand that the knowledge you learn right now, the facts you learn right now, in 10 years, a lot of them are going to be outdated. And so instead, what you've got to concentrate is understanding skills, meaning, ways of thinking. You have to understand critical thinking pieces. And how do you do that? That's got to be integrated with all of your classes, but really there's certain knowledges and ways of thinking that everybody needs to be familiar with, and that's math, reading and writing, science, and another language, etc. Okay. And I'm going to just create a link back to here, founder's letter, and people can muck around with the mission guiding principles later. I personally liked our old mission guiding principles. Another institution is going to have, as institutions change, they're going to, different leadership comes on board. They're going to be, going to have a different emphasis, which is fine. That's the way the world works. Okay. Another program that, we want to stress the fact that there are going to be many tracks in terms of general education program that we're going to want to follow, and kind of different modules. So there might, in this case, general education and centered around the environment and ecology and teaching those basic skills within the context of that. I also, an incredible model is St. John's. Now I tend to be, I like the classics. It's located out in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I think a couple of other places. But what they do is they design a whole undergraduate program centered around the classics of what we would call kind of the classics of Western civilization. Look at this bookshelf. These are books that everybody, that they're the great books, and it's okay to say, hey, we think if you were going to enter a general studies program and go on a particular track, okay, and on this track within this context, hey, we're going to read Plato. We're going to be concerned with, we've got a very sort of prescriptive program, and kind of looking at potentially, these people really, have a focus of the way they're going to be teaching and what they're going to be teaching about. And it is okay to see whether some of the principles that they are talking about, whether we could integrate them into an Oplerno general education degree program. So you see now what we're doing is we're creating different resources that people can click on and we can use to generate a discussion. So I know that we're keeping this a little bit more free-flowing and also a little bit more emergent in terms of talking about general studies in terms of the AA and the BA. But it's really important that we create a context that allows flexibility in terms of approaches. However, we need to make sure that we're communicating. If you go on this track, this is what you're going to get. If you go on that track, this is what you're going to get. Not be too prescriptive. I would say that, on one end of the spectrum is the St. John's version, where they have, you're going to be taking this class, you're going to be reading these particular books, and this is your first year, your second year, third year, and your fourth year program. On the other end, you've got schools like Burlington College, or in the Northeast in Goddard, where you can practically design your own undergraduate degree through a series of courses that are offered and ones that you transfer in. I think we as an institution need to be able to advise students on taking different tracks, but we also need to create the space where faculty can innovate. The best teachers I had in terms of philosophy, or back when I was taking courses in theology, were the ones who were absolutely really conservative traditionalists and literalists. If I wanted to learn about different interpretations in the Hebrew Bible, or a particular, let's say, the book of Job or Judges, I took those from the most traditional scholar that I could get a hold of, because I wanted to really figure out within their context what they were interpreting as the text meant. However, I also would move on to go to other departments and take classes with people who were really interested in postmodernism and post-structuralism, and have a much more free-flowing discussion. Both were great scholars, but they had different approaches. We have to create the environment where we have flexibility so that people can access the type of learning and the type of knowledge that they want, but offer them diversity of different approaches. Not telling them exactly what they should study, but giving them guidelines and signposts that allow them to move through a system so that they can earn that AA and the BA with general studies. Now, master's degrees are completely different, and graduate degrees are completely different because they don't. They're more specialized. And we're talking about the associates and the bachelors. We're going to have to tackle what does general studies mean? How do we create openness? Okay, and allowing people to create particular types of programs. Modules, which in this case are sort of certificates that can lead to degrees, and choice. We really want to create a lot of choice for faculty in terms of how they're going to teach, what they're going to offer, and choice for students in terms of how they're going to enter our programs. And part of the way in which students are going to do that is through transfer credits. So we've got a question or a comment. If we want Gen Ed for students to understand a complex world, we're concerned with no exposure to the humanities outside of the white dude canon. I agree. When I brought up St. John's is a, when we bring up St. John's, this is the white, this is what I think Colleen is talking about, the white dude canon. I guess when I'm talking about exposure, is that, and we'll get more into this tomorrow, is that you take the great materials, the great art, the great philosophy, you take that from all cultures. That's part of living in a complex world, and we're going to talk about tomorrow at 9. I'm going to talk about the context that I'm using to conceptualize this, which is basically know where you come from, but you also have to know another culture outside your own with some depth. And then when you do that, you can then start to get into conversations with other people about sort of creating commonalities in a type of cosmopolitanism. So I definitely do not want to have a situation or be part of an institution where we are mandating you will read these 10 books, and these 10 books are the things that are the great books, and the rest of them don't count. But what we do want to do is figure out what exactly it is we stand for in terms of a way of looking at general studies and having students move through that. But no, we're not going to have the great books or a canon. We're creating protocols that allow people to move through and create the degrees and the types of knowledge that they want, rather than the ones that we think they should have. Again, education at its best is about helping the individual reach their maximum potential. It's not about a prescriptive or a disciplinary piece where we tell people what to do and what to think and what to engage in. And I'm working hard to try to conceptualize an organizational framework that allows us to have an incredible amount of rigor, allows us to be a place where if a person just wants to do the great canon, just wants to do the great books and come up with their list, that faculty, that group of faculty or that faculty member, that they have the flexibility to do that. But I also want the flexibility for faculty and for students who say, if I look at knowledge, sure, I need to know about sort of the traditions, the intellectual traditions that my culture is a part of. But I really also want to branch out, and I want to have a basic understanding of something that it's very different than my own. And for me, growing up in Vermont, I spent a lot of time, studying Christianity and Judaism, Christian theology. But then, in college, I spent a lot of time taking courses in Buddhism and Confucianism and other types of philosophy, and not only studying, European history, but also studying Asian and Latin American history too. And all those actually, that type of flexibility really informed me about how the world kind of functions. That's within the social science and the humanities perspective. We also have to have a system that allows people to find the tools that are going to be useful for them in terms of their lives. For me, that was finding out about system dynamics and some computer modeling. But I found that in my late 20s and 30s, and I wasn't back in school. I had to sort of cobble together not courses, but knowledge through books to see how important computer modeling had become. I wish that there had been something like Oplerno around for me, because it would have been really worth it for me to spend $500 to $1,000 to take a course on system dynamics and Stella with someone who actually knew how to use those programs, and rather than just having to read books by Donella Meadows, who's a big person in that field. It would have been great if I had had the opportunity to actually take some courses with her online for potential graduate credit. So yeah, we want to create flexibility, which is extremely important. Okay. All right. Now I've been, I'm going to go back and unshare the screen. Okay. Oplerno, classics definitely have value. Just want to ensure there's flexibility for more exposure. Sounds like that flexibility exists. Absolutely, the flexibility exists. Let's see. Okay. I think that's it. If you have a question, please feel free to shoot me a message, and I'll do my best to answer it. And thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you later. Bye.